Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Architecture of Health. I'm Deb Voisin, and this week I have Sandy Gross, a performance care skills coach. And she's just an expert, guys, in functional human movement and building the kind of strength and ability that we want to have for our lifetime. I met Sandy online, and I'm so glad to have her. Welcome to our show, Sandy.
Thank you, Deb. This has been, it's great yeah, we've met before, but I am such a fangirl of your Instagram page.
Wow. And I'm a fangirl of yours. Guys, Sandy, I just friended her and I was like, oh, another Instagram friend. Oh, we're kind of like-minded. Then I dug into she's an expert in the realm of things that interest me: functional movement, longevity, durability, performance. And she's been at it, even though in some ways I've been at this swinging away for a lot of years from the getting broken point of view. She's been swinging at this from the drive to win point of view and has worked with professional athletes. She's got a wide variety of skills. And today, I just really want to get her point of view on what does it take to either build or restore our innate athleticism. So, Sandy, well, first of all, Sandy, how would you say your point of view is different than some other points of view that might be more front of, be getting more attention right now, or even have gotten more attention for the last 10, 20 years in the realm of fitness and movement?
Oh gosh, I think a few things. Number one, I'm 59 years old, so I've been around in a body. I owned a yoga studio for almost 20 years where physicians would send injured people to yoga. And I felt in the beginning really ill-equipped to handle that. Someone with, you know, needing to deload from whatever they were injured from, and that was the doctor's way of saying stay active. So feeling ill-equipped and just being a problem solver, like what can I do to be more helpful to this person? That's always been my motto as a teacher. I'm there to help people. So I kept learning. I kept plugging in. I had a fitness background before yoga, grew up in California in the 80s when fitness was kind of on the come up. Then moved to Cleveland, Ohio to be married and have children. Got into yoga for my own healing of a nagging neck injury, and then the passing of my mother, which sent me down kind of the woo-woo path of yoga. I needed to know more about death. I needed to know where she went. I needed to know more about spirit. I just was craving. So yoga kind of fit both, helped my neck and helped my spirit. And then I started teaching yoga. Now there was very limited teachers in Ohio, even though it was kind of more on the come up already on the coasts. And I was just kind of I had done some event producing in my career prior to that. So I just started inviting teachers that I admired to come to Cleveland to do an event. And that was really the core of the business that I opened. Was we need to support these events. I need a location. I need a crowd of people to support these events. It was all very selfishly driven around education, and solving problems and helping people. So there you go.
So you came at it from fitness and then yoga, and
Yes.
then how did it switch over? Was it through the yoga, the way you kept problem solving and redefining yoga? Was that what got you to working with more and more athletes?
Well, yes, I would host mostly yoga teachers, and I just got really good at networking. And I will say, using the internet to find inspiration. I mean, you and I are of the generation where we got our first AOL download account and started. I mean, that's how I invited yoga teacher guests to travel to little old Cleveland, Ohio to come and teach. Um, so I found inspiration and education from that and from people that would refer, like, oh, you should go down this rabbit hole. Um, and then through my own pain and dysfunction, I had a car accident that the seat belt held me back. I was the first car hit in a 5-car pileup, and we were fine. I was fine, but I got yanked back and had lots of pain here. Went to PT, this wonderful PT that helped me for several months, and I was still never fully out of pain. I wasn't satisfied. And then I had healed enough that I was actually attending CrossFit back in, I think, '07, '06, which might sound crazy after surviving a car accident, but I needed to get fit again after prioritizing yoga and sort of let that part of me go. I was busy running a business, raising kids. And my CrossFit coach was like, have you ever heard of Kelly Starrett and Jill Miller? You would really dig them. And turned me on the internet, the YouTubes, and I found a video where Kelly, in a very early video of his, where he had Jill Miller on, and they were working, ironically, on the collarbone area and the shoulder. And I was like, oh my God. So I bought the rubberized balls and started taking a crack, as Kelly says, at fixing myself. And because I had the tools and in my own hands and a little bit of education from a video, I was able to go into this space under my collarbone as often as I wanted, 3 times a day. And within a week or two, that last residual 10% pain was gone. So merging with the physical therapy world, the CrossFit world, getting stronger, hanging on to my yoga for balance and, the mindset work, I was able to get past my own, I had to participate in my own healing. I couldn't just ask a PT to fix me and then walk away. And it made me feel like I had agency to continue on. And so then I went down the path of learning more about Jill's work, Kelly's work, brought me back into the gym using bands and balls. I created classes at my yoga studio using bands and balls. I then went through all of Jill's trainings and some others about anatomy. I just needed to know more about the body. And again, doctors were sending injured patients to me, and I wanted to have more classes for them to participate. And so I created a class that involved a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of therapy ball work, a little bit of rubber bands. I built an 18-station rope wall in my yoga studio so we could do some traction work. We would attach the bands where the ropes would attach. So we had a stretchy component, not just a rigid rope. We used both. And that's where athletic people started finding me, through the CrossFit community, through the athletic community. And that's how I started working in collegiate and professional sports.
Wow. Okay. There are so many things in there that I wanted to. First of all, the participate in your own healing. That is exactly why I can't shut up. I remember I just told someone recently that I spent 25 years, as much as I could, avoiding uneven surfaces like the beaches or hiking, because my knee instability from the loud pop of a ligament in a lotus pose when I was teaching yoga a lot. Um, I was doing some arm balance with my arms jammed in between my bound lotus, and I was trying to get my arm out, and it was a struggle, and a teacher was helping me, and then a loud pop, and then I was that was back in the 90s, right? And so I had to start to figure out what I could really do and what I couldn't do. But the thing is, the fact that I avoided, I redesigned my whole life around my pain. And then I was in an Ido Portal's inspired movement class, and we were doing polyaxial movement, all these rotating movements. And it turns out enough of them were working the knee at all these subtle angles that a normal straight flat gym routine wouldn't. And I got such agency. Suddenly, my knee was better than it had been in 25 years, and it took like a week. So that's what turned me on. Like, wow, I got to be loud that we can take agency and get back to some state that we didn't think we could get back to. And I love what you're saying about participating in our own healing. That you could have just followed the instructions of the PT and said, "I'm done." Like, oh, they were supposed to fix it. I did what they said. I'm done. But you kept researching, and you blended all these different methods until you came up with I love how you, and second thing is, as the student's mentor, you are also taking responsibility. These people are injured. We need to look at things a little differently. We don't just throw them in a class and they copy what I'm doing, and oh, it's their fault if they get hurt. I love that you blended both sides of this infinity symbol together. So, an audience, if you don't know, Kelly Starrett was one of the really really early in the strength side of functional movement back in what was that, 2020, 2010? I can't remember.
I don't remember when he first started, but it was right around my time in CrossFit. He'd already been doing it, so I
Yeah, and
don't
I
know.
don't
But he
even
was
know.
kind of the
And
first one to go online and really kind of share education about taking agency. Yeah.
and similar, I'm of a similar age as you, Sandy. We're almost exactly the same. And I love that as we've gotten more experience and we've healed ourselves and been through so many things, that we can help people get hopefully a more direct path. But every path is going to be a little different. If people aren't invested in their own well-being, none of what either of us has to offer is going to be good. So tell me this: how does someone know? Okay, let's look at it from both sides. How do you know if someone is going to get results with you or be a good client? And yeah, let's say that. How do you know that this approach, when you and what is the approach? Is that your move well? Is it the balls? Like what are the ways that you offer your services to others?
Well, I developed a program as I was in my final days of having my physical yoga studio, in response to these clients in pain or the athletic population I was working with. Um, uh, People wanted to learn more. So I started just taking notes after every private client I had and the information I had from my group classes. And uh, the first job I got outside of the yoga studio, so to speak, was the athletic director from Kent State University found me and said, I want to bring you in to work with my female basketball players in the off season. So I created a 6-week program to primarily teach them the therapy ball work. But I brought in the bands as well, and it was just about um, the coach and I discussed we want the young people to have more self-care skills and that it is a set of skills to take care of yourself. And it was one of the coaches at Kent State who uh, his athletes were intimidated by yoga. This was when I worked with the women's soccer team. The coach was like, I am not going to introduce you to these girls as a yoga teacher because a lot of them have a negative connotation at their age to yoga. It's too hard, it's too hot, it's too fast, it's too stretchy, it's too slow, it's for my grandma. Just a lot of perspectives on yoga that he says, I don't know what I'm going to call you, but just roll with me. It was sort of his attitude. And I was like, okay, where are we going? Because had the balls and I had yoga. And so he introduces me and he says, she's a regen coach and she's going to teach you performance care skills so that you can do better in your dorm room pre-practice so that you show up to the practice facility ready to go. And I was like, wow, did I just get a job upgrade? I
Uh,
was like, I like that. I quickly got to my car and opened up the notes section of my phone and wrote it down. And that's kind of helped steer me towards all the work I do today, which is a lot of knowing a little bit about a lot of things that helps me work one-on-one with people and use their context and my skill set and their skill set. These people are coming to me with experience in a body and it's a merging of the minds. The whole approach I take is it's an educational approach. You have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of wisdom from your athletic experience, your injury experience, your PT experience. Um, all the things going on in your body, and everyone's using the internet to Google and YouTube and find ways to fix themselves, which is awesome. So I go in and kind of help people make sense out of all of that and kind of hone in on what they should be working on and develop a sort of what I call a movement hygiene checklist they can create on the weekly to help them use their downtime more wisely, to be ready, to be more prepared as a person who wants to maintain a sense of readiness throughout their life and stay active and not have fear around returning to their sport after injury or fear of aging or fear of taking that vacation when you're in your 80s and having an active life. So it's about that.
well, I love
Does that
this
make
so
sense?
much here. Yeah, and regeneration, a regeneration specialist. And that's one thing I'm finding is my inspiring friends like you on Instagram. We're all in this regeneration realm. We're sharing stories like, wow, this amazing thing happened and I tried this. And sometimes I'll then go back to my older community of friends who don't think that way, and they actually get quite mad. No, you're telling me I can fix it. No, be quiet. And so I wanted to state that, and I think part of the disconnect in some people is the training of learned helplessness. Like you can't do anything about a ligament, you can't do anything about scoliosis, or you can't, and so the education component is critical about the elasticity of the body, the fluid systems of the body, the pressure systems of the body. And the interesting thing, I love what you were saying, is the self-care skills and how these people became better teammates because they did the self-care, they brushed their teeth every day, and they did the movement hygiene. That's another thing that at least as things are evolving, and maybe it's my age group or maybe it's, I don't know what it is, but as things are evolving, we understand that we're in a, I like the way Ricky Stanzi of Goda says it, that we're in a processed movement world where we're sitting in
Mm-hmm.
chairs, we're driving, we're not walking, we're not climbing trees, we're not lifting. And because it's kind of like we're eating processed food, and you have different oral care. If you're in a culture that has processed refined sugars, you have different oral care than your the 200 years ago, some Viking guy with a green biofilm in his mouth where he never had to ever brush his teeth. So I love that you're bringing that to the awareness. But here's one part that wasn't visible to me. um, when I started working with some of these people who worked with, at least collaborating with people who've trained professional athletes or even collegiate and high school athletes, one thing that's missing to those of us doing self-care on that's not on a team is we feel like we aren't on any team. So like our motivation to feel better is just to feel better, so that maybe we aren't a weight on our family or we don't get injured. But
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing those teams have is they've got, like, I'm going to do this so that I can be on my team. I'm going to do this for my team, and my team is going to win. And I would love, and I honestly think that movement hygiene gets lonely without some connection to another group. Maybe that's also why yoga studios feel like such yummy places to be. African dance classes
Mm-hmm.
feel yummy. Yeah, and we can all be better. And here's one interesting thing. Frank Forensich wrote this book called Exuberant Animal. He was on my podcast maybe a year ago. And his book, Play as Though Your Life Depends Upon It, he has this warning in it, like, basically kind of like a medical warning, like, get your doctor's permission if you're going to be inactive, instead of you need your doctor's permission to be active. And another way he flips the thinking is that this, having an era of people competing to be professional athletes and professional dancers actually cultivates more of a community of people passively watching. So I think what both of us really want, what all of us really need, is get everybody that can be in action back to what they love. So tell me like the hooks that you've seen that keep people going even when they've suffered a huge setback.
Well, talking about the athlete space, yes, we're all participants watching, but because of the internet, because of Instagram, all the channels, all the grams, uh, you're watching LeBron do recovery work because if you follow his coaches, or if you follow LeBron, or you follow just the fact that these guys are in their 30s, late 30s and 40s, still doing it. Um, there was an article, I think, in ESPN years ago about how LeBron spends, I don't know, at the time it was 1.5 million, which was a certain percentage of his overall income. And it just kind of made everybody realize, oh, this is a good place to spend money. That's what LeBron's doing. And now we're watching him play, at the what is he, 40 now, 38? I can't keep track. Doesn't matter. He's one of the older players. It does matter. But he's role modeling what's possible. So I pay attention at that level. And I think a lot of people are, because of the social media. And I'm an advocate of sharing. I follow these guys' coaches and I share because they're sharing. I share the stuff they share because I've had people DM me through Instagram and say, because of you, I started lifting weights again and my shoulder got better and I feel stronger than ever. And guess what? I've lost some weight. And I just didn't realize that it was that important, but you've inspired me. So just I share things that inspire me, and different perspectives. And so that's one way. What was the other part of your question?
Well, I'm going to also just add in on what you're saying. Or to re-summarize what you just said. This is the first time we can see more than the game. This is the first time
Yes.
those of us watching the game, if we want to see what's possible, this with the internet, we can see that, and we can track longevity. We can see what it takes for someone who is achieving sports longevity and high performance. We can peel back the covers and use some of that for ourselves. If it's good enough to make an elite athlete perform that well and that long, or recover from horrible injuries. Athletes get horrible injuries and they're not just giving up. They're figuring out every darn thing they can do to keep in the game. And so it can be, and you're right, we can make it super inspiring and not make it just an endpoint of, oh, that's not me. I love, before we started recording, something that I was trying to figure out, how do we cue more people into, because one thing you said is you like to work with people who at some point had a taste. They got the taste, like this is what joyful, powerful, athletic living feels like, and that you try to help people get back to what brings them the joy. Now here's a question, is what is unexpected about the way people are recovering from injuries, or the way they're getting back to the way that they used to be?
What is something that, say that, rephrase that again?
What's unexpected about the things that are working?
Oh gosh, I'm not really sure what you mean, I guess. What's
I I think
unexpected?
there's some chill. I think you're teaching people some chill skills to go along with the weightlifting, to go along with the more vigorous things. I think you're also bringing people the easefulness, aren't you? With the balls
Yeah,
and the
one
recovery.
thing that comes out of my mouth, um, probably 10 dozen times, it depends on the client, during my Move Well Ed program, which is about 12 hours of time, roughly 8 sessions, depends how long our sessions go. Is I say, and this is a quote from Jill Miller from the yoga tune-up work and the role model method therapy ball work, is it doesn't have to hurt to work. And I have to repeat that, because just the other day I was teaching a group at a corporate site, a workshop for runners in recovery, and they just finished a big race, and we were working on the feet and the lower legs, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, I've got to smash this calf. It's so tight," and he was grinding his teeth and making a face, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, back up. Does it hurt when you push there?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Go back a little bit before that space. I want you to take a deep breath and put some sustained compression, not on the spot where it hurts, but above it or below it or to the right of it or to the left of it, because it doesn't have to hurt to work. And I want you to breathe. We are working with our nervous system here, and your deep breath sends a signal to your nervous system to shift out of, ooh, fight or flight, and into relax and rest and digest. And you've got to work with that in order to permit the muscles to stretch. So taking a deep breath, doing whatever you're doing, stretching, ball rolling, whatever, taking a deep breath is granting permission for the stretch to occur. So once I kind of explain that, there's science that explains that, but I got to find the words to get people to buy in with me in the middle of a class or a private session. And that's all kind of personalized. I've been pleasantly surprised that some of the higher level athletes, they've been down the pain cave, they've been down the injury train, and they've had enough anatomy learning from having gone under the knife, perhaps, or just dealing with, lots and lots of injuries. So they're not actually intimidated by some anatomy speak and some nervous system conversation. But I've gotten real good at looking at someone's face and at their eyes, and if they're glazing over, and then I know to back it up and get back to talking normal. But I do think we have to go into under the hood a little bit and talk about the nervous system and talk about muscles and joints. And I have an anatomy app that I bring with me on an iPad to every appointment, and I whip that open and I'll show them under the hood what your glutes look like or what your shoulder looks like. And I just think the more you know something, the more you want to take care of it. And the more you want to take care of it, the more you're going to do right by yourself. You're going to prioritize the time to do some of this work. because you've met it on a deeper level instead
I
of
love
like, oh, I
that.
have a I have a bad shoulder. Oh, I have a bad relationship with my shoulder. I just need to learn more about taking care of this thing. It's attached to me. I might as well. I'm in a long-term relationship with this. I'm married, so to speak. I am family members beyond marriage. I'm in a family, you can break up with your husband, you can break up with family members, but you don't want to get rid of your arm and your shoulder. You want that's not the answer. You need you got a long lease or long ownership cycle with this body. So that's the meaning of yoga is relationship and cultivating that. So I bring in the woo a little bit and the anatomy to help someone fall in love with themselves on a deeper level and want to take better care. And then that is the reason for doing it. Um, because you're going to have more confidence, you're going to feel better, you're going to gain more. It's just feels good to feel good in your body and know that you participated in creating that environment for yourself. And to know that if you ever get a tweak or an ache or a pain or have a bigger accident, you can prioritize. Can I try to work with this with some stretching or strengthening or therapy ball work? And I help people discern all of that in my program to make better decisions? Or do they need to call their orthopedist and go get an x-ray? You know, most of the time they don't need to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I love.
I'm really clear in my scope of practice. Like I've many times mid move well ed program saying, I really think, you're waking up with sweats and some pain in the middle of the night. You need an x-ray. You need to go call your doctor. And um, that's a bigger issue. That's beyond my scope of practice. We can keep continuing to work together, but I need you to go see a doctor for that.
Yeah, I love that you're coming back to that as well because I remember using Chinese medicine more and more. Oh, was it starting 20 years ago? And my friends who were practicing at the time talked about how Western medicine, one of the best things they can provide are these diagnostic and imaging and other really detailed ways of looking at the body. And we know emergency medicine, there's nothing like it. Uh, and yet, you can use that imaging or that knowledge. You're still the one owning the body and you're still and yet the solution to a problem wherever the pain is showing up, the solution is often not there at all. It's a pressure system that somehow has all impacted one spot and you need to look at the rest, the totality. And like you've mentioned, whether it's the emotional stressors or whatever is causing, whether it's there every day, the way they sit in the chair, whatever is causing that stressor isn't right there at that place the pain is. I loved you saying getting near that painful spot, looking right around that painful spot instead of kind of either having this very toxic relationship with pain of like you just surrender and give up, I'm just going to always be in pain, or you get like I have to have pain or I'm not going to get better. I love this idea of this intelligent, you know feeling around to keep getting better. And the idea of anatomy, it's funny, I just got so into anatomy because I had some inspiring teachers that would take the time to show, well, the bones don't want to do this. And I would be going, that's weird. Some of the very common stretches I see all over are doing that. They're like, well, if you look at the surfaces of the bones, that creates a poor relationship. And I started to then go deeper into using anatomy as a jumping off point and physics as a jumping off point to figure out what truly is functional and regenerative. And that's why I think the word regenerative is so great, because it's this new way of thinking, of respecting everything that is, and knowing enough about your anatomy that, yeah, you don't want to F around with it. What was it, stage 3 ligament tear, like all the, and you do want to
Right.
use whatever. I love that you talked about their it's not a cure all, like someone's and yet there is still a lot we can do. What is
Well, and
what?
I would love to share the quote. You've heard this before, Dr. Perry Nicholson. Pain is a request for change. It's information. So, but yet everybody has pain. Does every pain need to drive you to the doctor for an x-ray and down that path? No. So many people are, pain can come and go. It's information. Like I'm sitting in a chair right now to talk to you for the proper lighting and all of that. But I wish I was sitting on the floor. I should have role modeled my own advice for this. But you're sitting at your desk at work and you start to get shoulder pain. You don't need a doctor for that. You need to get up and take a walk, or you need to get up and take a rubber band, which is something I give out to all my clients, one of these red sort of Twizzler looking bands. And I teach people how to do some, things to contract your upper back and then stretch your pecs in the doorway. And people are doing this to some degree at work who are in their bodies and have a little bit more faith that they can change their state of how they're feeling. I just come along and give you a bigger toolbox for all of that. But yeah, get up and move. You don't, just because your shoulder and your upper back is tight, you don't need a doctor for that. You just need to figure out what movement can counter that and how you can work that into your day.
What are some, before we go on to the specifics that you teach, what are some things that haven't worked that you either used to do or you've seen people trying? Well, what I heard was, one, no pain, no gain. I hear that doesn't work. I got that. Any other things that you've seen that either you tried and had to give up? And that's part of what my show is about. Like, sometimes my worst injuries and my son's worst setbacks were doing what we thought was healthy. It was either a doctor said do this, or I thought, oh, it's my yoga teacher did that, so it's got to be good. So any other things? Well, and it's a second you've said that doesn't work is not being an active participant, like kind of outsourcing your health.
I wouldn't say there's lots of things that popped into my mind as you said that. Yoga is not a cure-all. Whereas there was a long time early in my yoga career where I felt really empowered by adding the skill of teaching yoga, because I do think everyone would benefit from going to yoga at least once a week. It just helps to reset your tensional balance all over, helps your spirit, your heart and soul. I'm a big proponent of finding the right yoga teacher for you. And that is part of what I recommend to everyone. But it's not the thing that's going to help solve all your problems. It's the more important that you just have a toolbox and you understand everything's place in the toolbox. Yoga is a tool. Strength training is a big tool. Therapy ball rolling is a big tool. Sleep hygiene is a bunch of tools in the toolbox. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox. So I just help people understand their place, what they might need, how to think through these things. And one of the things that's shifted for me over the years is, if you think about it, everything is on a continuum from weakness to strength, and finding that appropriate place for you, depending on what your joints need and the time you have and your goals. There's always everything. Just getting up from this chair is a strength training move, right? I'm getting up from a seated position, standing up. And if I sit back down, I'm squatting into the chair. So everything is on a continuum of strength. So it's the toolbox. How do you prioritize all these things that you come across?
Well, that's another question, is now that we have this infinite internet toolbox, I can go to Instagram and flag 10 things I want to try. And honestly, if I hadn't taken so much time to study the physics and the anatomy and the ancestors, I have a very clear filtering criteria now. I'm like, boom, boom. Yeah, that's out of range, in range. And yet I wonder for other people, like how to decide what's in their toolbox. But I think the first tool is knowing that there are a lot of tools, and that the most powerful nuclear bomb types of tools aren't needed for every situation. Just like,
right,
I can't use a stretch to fix a broken femur, right? The different tools for different situations. And movement hygiene, I love that idea that at every moment we could be using better technique for anything we do. Like getting up and down from the chair, like you were saying, is making you better at sitting, and it's making your brain better at thinking. At almost any moment, we could use some kind of movement tool to better connect to our body, mind, and spirit. So tell me.
Right. We know now movement heals, movement cures. It's not everything, but shoot, when you go to the hospital and have a hip replacement, or you have any type of surgery, they want to get you up and moving very soon. Whereas back in the day, they wanted bed rest, after you had a baby. Now they get you moving because they know movement is helpful. It boosts your circulation. It makes your muscles contract and release. And like I mentioned before, that tensional balance, you can't lose that. You lose that, you get problems. You want to be
Yeah.
constantly working on that tensional balance. You need to move to do that.
Yeah. And
Anyway, what you were heading into a question, I apologize.
uh, well, I'll just build on what you said anyway, because when I was 19 or 20 and had to go to the doctor on my own for the first time to an emergency room for a really badly sprained ankle from a trampoline, I had been studying body mind centering, and we always did anatomy at the beginning of every lesson. So I went to the emergency room. I was full expecting, okay, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about how that joint moves. I was like, and I was woefully disappointed after 4 hours of waiting in the waiting room. And then the x-ray showing it wasn't broken, but the doctor in 1 minute saying, stick it in a boot, wear some crutches, bye. And I was sitting there just shocked at this, and so thank goodness, even though before the internet, that's kind of how I got started in this whole realm. Is I went and I explored the joint and I explored what it could do and what it couldn't do. And of course, it was healed in like a week or something. And he had said, keep it in a boot for 2 months. So that's gotten me in this realm that if I hadn't been introduced to this idea to do a little more research, then I could skillfully manage my experience better than someone else. And whatever the monoculture was saying about movement. And I'm so glad things have evolved. Like, a lot of really skilled physical therapists, personal trainers, yoga teachers, a lot of ways we can move better.
Well, and that is an important thing. You do need to sort of isolate an injury like that for a period of time. But because there's this lack of movement education out there, I mean, PE programs have been cut back. Hopefully, they're coming back. But and PE has turned into play rather than skill acquisition. Whereas when I was in school, it was about learning skills. We were just starting to get into fitness a little bit, but it was still about sports skills and body skills, body weight drills. Um, uh, but now at the highest level of sport, you sprain your ankle, you might have to immobilize it for a period of time. But then you go to your PT and they're probably doing some hands-on work or some e-stim work, and that's movement at a very local level, appropriate movement. So that's what's in my Move Well Ed program. You hurt
Oh,
your
tell me more
ankle,
about that. Tell me more
doctor
about.
tells you, well, I'm giving you a little piece of it here. If someone, I skate the edge of pain and dysfunction with my clients who don't want to just sit there and be immobile for 2 months. So they'll say, okay, I'm aware of you. We've worked together before, or I've heard of you. What can I do? I'm like, well, you can ride one of those echo bikes, and where you've got the two pedals with your feet and the two hand things. And if you've got a sprained ankle, as in your case, well, you can push with the other foot and the two arms, and you can get some exercise and let that foot stay in the boot and go along for the ride, so to speak, as your other leg and your other two arms do the work. You're not going to be pushing your max with this, but you can get some movement in, right? At some point, your ankle is going to be ready. You can take the boot off and you can do some toe wiggling. You can do some work with the rubberized therapy balls that I work with. You can take a rubber band and do some pointing and flexing with your ankle and get that ankle moving a little bit if it doesn't hurt, and work with your doctor. Every single time a client has I'm always like, check with your doctor first. If you're under the care of a physician, I need you to clear what I'm going to do with you with your doctor first. I would prefer that. You don't have to, it's your body, but I want people to understand and respect all paths along this way, themselves, the physician, our work together. And every time doctors are like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. Yes, you can do those things.
Wow.
So
And to be
I have
fair,
found doctors love to know there's someone like me and you helping someone gain more agency around their situation. It's
that
just not the norm.
I wore the boot for the week, but I had a 40-hour a week job on my feet delivering heavy things. And I taught a dance class and I just moved all the time. And then I would take it out of the boot and do gentle things. So I don't want to underplay that. Yes, especially ligaments involved. You got to be careful. You don't want those to tear all the way through and become
Yeah.
a required surgery. And some things like shoulders, you can't, a shoulder replacement isn't really a functional replacement versus some of the knee and hip replacements tend to have some better outcomes. That's the other thing I learned is really research. There's a book I have about the orthopedic industry and how a lot of the tests, a lot of the orthopedic surgeries don't outperform placebo. So, and, and and so it's really good to look at any surgery that you're considering doing and looking at the recovery rate and the risk rate and all that on your own so that you're a better partner with your doctors. Yeah, they've got too much to do that. They're way too busy to be able to be you. You're the best customer. So
Right.
tell me more. What's the structure of the Move Well program?
It's very customized to the person, but it does have structure. It's evolved over the last 10 years that I've been doing it. And it starts out with a functional movement screen. FMS is Functional Movement Systems, has what's called the functional movement screen. It's uh, a way to screen movement. It's the gold standard in collegiate and professional sports for kind of giving a holistic view of what kind of movement signature an athlete or human has. And one of the reasons why I really prioritize using that is it really shines a flashlight on your movement. As you're going through the screen with me, that takes about 20 minutes, you I'm looking at you, you're doing the movement, we talk along the way, you get a report of what I saw, and the torch is passed to you that this is your movement signature. And we found, a handful of things to work on. I point out what's good. There's a lot of good in every screen, but maybe you've got an asymmetry in your right and left lunge that we do, or an asymmetry in the shoulder screen that we do. Well, we work on those things. How did I get, why? And interestingly enough, the left shoulder that has less range of motion might correlate to your right hip that has pain. And so they start to make relevant connections between their pain and dysfunction with their whole body. And then they get inspired, like, oh, these are my problems to solve. I call them blind spots, and so the program, then we work through your blind spots. I'm not there to fix you. I'm there to teach you how to make sense out of all these things and what you've been through in your body, what you know, so that you can start taking more personal responsibility for perhaps getting over a dysfunction that we found and some pain that you have, but also learning to do this movement hygiene along the way so that you can prevent and be your first line of defense when you do have some aches or pains. So I take you through the FMS. We talk about breathing, how that impacts the nervous system. We start with ground-based movement, a lot of the work from the Childhood Developmental Series, different inspirations along the way with that. Sitting on the floor, and why I think that's really valuable, from Philip Beach's work and other people who have popularized this, as in Goda. Knees over toes comes into it when we work with feet and knees. Almost everybody can benefit from doing some of the things from his work. We go upstream. There's a session on feet and ankles that involves self-therapy with the rubberized balls and whatever tools you have around the house, maybe a foam roll or whatever other things you've acquired. I try to make it a merging of what I know and what you know, and make it a positive experience that someone feels empowered when they leave a session with me. And then we go into the hips and the core, and that's called your power center. Then we go up into the organs of action, your arms, your T-spine, neck, jaw, and then we do a session on yoga and assisted stretching and things you can be doing at night while you're watching TV to downregulate. And people always have questions and want to gain a better understanding of what types of yoga is right for them. I mean, the good news is, I say this, the good news is there's a lot of yoga everywhere nowadays. back when I first discovered yoga, there was maybe one or two teachers in my town. Um, and the bad news is there's a lot of yoga everywhere these days. It's kind of hard to find your way. And people will go to one class and be like, oh, I tried yoga. It was too hot, too hard, too fast. Or, oh, I tried yoga. I went to my mom's class and it was slow and it was boring. Like, oh, there are so many different kinds of yoga today. So I get to know you, and that comes toward the end of the program where I give you an education on how to discern what type of yoga is good for you. And we talk about sleep hygiene, and a lot of people are Googling things about sleep hygiene, and some people just have uh, some precision around this that's just not really honed in. So I help them clean up and prioritize what I think they should use, or what I think is working for them, or like they might be doing therapy ball work after their workout at the gym at 11 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, that's good, but they're complaining they don't have time for it, so they forget to do it or they put it off. I'm like, you know what? I like doing it at night before bed. Number one,
Me
I'm
too.
stacking it with watching television. So I get on the ground, I'm laying down with a yoga block under my head, and I'm stretching. And when you get horizontal, you start to get sleepy. So it's a good way for me to down regulate from the television so that when I hit bed, I'm already drowsy because I've been laying down and I've been doing some down regulating work like stretching or massage work. So again, it's just sometimes they have misplaced where they put the tool,
Right. I was
or
sort of complaining last night that my high energy African dance classes that I take are at night. They start at like 7, and then the drums and we're jumping. It's like sprinting right before bed. And I said, I can just do this like once a week. I can do it maybe twice a week. Cause I've learned, like you were saying, during COVID, I was really, my life changed so much, and like,
Mhm.
wow. And it was really PTSD on PTSD on PTSD, and I could not down regulate to sleep. I was getting very and I was too screen addicted because California stayed insanely shut down for years, right? And especially my little town. And but once I started to, like, at the time I was using the functional patterns protocol for myofascial release with the balls. Once I learned to do that at night, I could fall asleep instantly. Just no doubts. And like you also said, I love that. Sounds very comprehensive. Learning rest positions for doing something passive, whether it's my phone or whether I'm watching a movie. Learning supported, elongating, nourishing, restful positions can really affect our overall athleticism. And the last thing I wanted to say is I like that you've blended so many different methods, because each method comes with some kind of design assumption, right? Like I love the go to guys. I love what they've done. And they've come from a professional athletics design assumption, which is actually that most people, athletes, have pretty solid core, basic core strength, basic locomotion. And Esther Goklay's work was assuming that you're probably spending a lot of time sitting in a chair, and so it starts there. And so I love that you're using this precision, because, and by looking across many methods, you start to see not only what has a truth to it that's almost universal, but you also see which flavors matter more for different people at different times. You get that nuance, like you were saying, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time of the day, or me being a hypermobile. Like I was always that kid that could bend their wrist all the way back. I could just I still can just flop into anything. Me overemphasizing the stretchy part of yoga, not the strength building part, was a critical mistake when I was teaching 15 times a week. I was just, but then when I finally found African dance, it's like sprinting. It's very like boom, very plyometric, very rebounding, and then adding the
Mhm.
strength training on top of that was super better. All right, so tell me also about the rolling program that you have. What is that?
I work for Jill Miller's company. I'm a distributor of her work. She has two books, one called The Role Model Method, which is a 400 plus page sort of Betty Crocker cookbook, if you will, that teaches you how to do the therapy ball rolling, teaches you a little bit about anatomy, teaches you a little bit about a lot about down regulation, And there's wonderful testimonial stories in there of people who have literally taken life by the balls, so to speak, and had this self-agency and have changed the way they perceive pain, the way they look at pain, the way they prioritize medical, the way they prioritize self-care. It's a wonderful book. That this work changed the course of my career in that it opened me up beyond just being a yoga teacher, and it helped the coaches to see me. Their world they knew needed more sophisticated work than just yoga. So they so the therapy ball work, I teach workshops and do privates with that. It's probably a third of this Move Well Ed program that I teach. But I also teach the practitioner training for Jill's company, Tune Up Fitness. It's called the Role Model Practitioner Training. It's 2 8-hour days, and then you are welcome to do the online exams so that you can be certified and use the brand name and be part of the team marketing. And there's great advantages to doing that, but you might just want to learn for yourself and not worry about teaching others. And you just might want to do the 2 8-hour days and learn how to use these tools. It's like brings that cookbook to life. The other book that she has that's a bit of the program called Body by Breath. It's over 600 pages. It's a continuation. It's got a lot of work with the therapy balls, but it's way more about mindset, down regulation, breathing, mechanics. It just takes the work to the next level. But the program that I teach is called the Role Model Method, and we're teaching it here in Austin, Texas in June. And if you go to my Instagram, which is Mobility Mama, there's links, in the bio there where you can learn more about the training, or just go to tuneupfitness.com and navigate towards the therapy ball training work. I'm teaching that with a colleague of mine who is a massage therapist and a craniosacral therapist, and she and I are team teaching that in June. And there's other teachers that teach it. So again, find a training near you. But I think it's a great addition to anybody who owns a body and wants to know more about how to really learn more about their anatomy and learn how to use these tools more effectively.
I love it, Mobility Mama. And your website is SG Movement. I forgot.
Movement.com. Yes, sgmovement.com.
Like SG, Sandy Gross, sgmovement.com. These will be in the notes.
Yes.
All right. Well, Sandy, I want to meet you in person. If you're out this way or I'm out that way, we are going to meet up. That is for sure.
Definitely. Thanks, Deb, for having me. It was a great week. Been wanting to have a conversation, and it was fun to record. And I appreciate you taking the time to host me.
Well, it's almost like finding an older sister, Sandy. You have put together so many pieces of this functional movement puzzle in a way that there's so much intelligence behind everything that you're saying that you've designed, and I'm going to definitely find out more. So thank you, and that's a wrap. Bye.
Thanks, Deb. Bye.